Hey guys, it's AJ with another RN video, and I actually got an Instagram message from one of my followers last night on maybe doing a video of how to organize your shift as a nurse, some tips and some tricks. And so actually I just came off a shift. I work nights, as you guys know, and it was a pretty tough night actually. Now, if you're a charge nurse, there's different responsibilities you have. If you're just a regular nurse, which I think that's what you were asking for, you have your own responsibilities, and I could do a separate charge nurse video on like my tips and stuff like that after this. But as far as being like a normal staff nurse, everybody's different. That's one thing I'll say. Everyone has their own pace. Everyone has different patients, and so every night is different, and you have to adapt. That's part of being a nurse, using critical thinking skills, using prioritization. All those things have a different impact on each night. Each night is not the same, and I can tell you that. You can have a good night, you can have a bad night. It really depends on so many different factors, on who you're working with, who's your tech, who is your secretary answering call lights, if you have a secretary, like everything, is different. So one thing that you have to know, FYI, is I work night shift. So there aren't as many family members, there aren't many doctors coming in, putting in orders and stuff like that. There are residents on call who do put in orders and all that. So there is still some busyness. It does get really busy with admissions overnight, I will say. So this is particularly from a nurse who is working night shift on a med surge floor. We typically get surgical patients. We actually have a specialty with bariatric patients, but we get everybody. It's basically just a med surge floor, your typical medical surgical floor. So anyway, my routine, my little thing that I do, I come in at the very least 15 minutes prior to my shift. So I actually start at 7 o'clock in the evening. I come in at least at 6:45, and that really helps me get a head start. I look at my medications, because usually medications are what dictates how your night's gonna go. If you have a lot of meds, you're gonna be busy. If you don't, maybe not, depending on your orders too. So that's the second thing. I look at my meds, I look at my orders. Really no in particular order. I just look at each of them, and then I look at the history of the patient if I have time. But those things are the most important things for me to do prior to my shift. I also look at who's the nurse. That definitely makes a huge difference on how your night's gonna be. Who are you gonna follow? Okay. Um, and so usually what happens after that, we do like fall huddles. That's what my shift particularly does. We see which patients are at risk for falls. So that's what I keep in my head with my patients. Who do I have to worry about? Who's going to be on a bed alarm? Who I'm going to be having to watch out for, especially at nighttime. Because a lot of patients, they get clumsy, they might get dizzy, it's dark, in the room, they might not have the light on. Those are things you have to worry about, okay? And so after that, you do your report. I write down everything on the paper that helps me to remember, and then also I like to cross off things once I get those tasks done. So it's easier that way. I know a lot of people want to just stay, just computer maybe, or just paper. I actually do both. It helps me remember and keep track of things. So that happens, and then of course with your medications, you have to plan out your meds. I always like to give my meds an hour before. It gives me enough time to see all my patients, and that way I won't be overdue when I go to my last patient who's going to be getting their 10 o'clock meds. Because usually 10 o'clock, that's the big time for medications, both for the day shift and the night shift. So, I come in, I try to do my head to toe assessment. Of course, that too, before my medications. I try to get my assessments done so that way I can chart my assessments, because that takes the longest. So I do my assessments, chart my assessments. If I have 8 o'clock meds, maybe I did that before. If I have 10 o'clock meds, I do that after. Of course, there are admissions at the nighttime. There's a lot of admissions that come. Typically, no discharges, so we can have a much higher amount of patients than the day shift. So at my hospital, we're not unionized, so you can I mean, we can get 8 patients. You know, you can get 9 patients. God forbid we ever get that long, that high. But it's been happening lately. Typically, I'd say 6 to 7 is the average. 6 on a good night, 7 to 8 most nights. But it's a lot. It's a lot of work, and you have to really adapt. You know, you have to check your orders often. Of course, this depends on what kind of system you have, whether the orders pop up in front of you. If you have the system we use McKesson. We literally have to go check the orders every now and then to see if something popped up, which is totally inefficient. But, you know, these are the kind of things that you have to adapt to. You know, there's programs, there's people that you're working with. If your techs are busy because there's admissions coming, or maybe you are busy because your techs are, you know, depending on who's working, maybe they're not working fast enough, maybe they're not really in it for that night, they're tired, whatever it may be, you have to adapt to those things. And then maybe you have to be the one to draw the blood sugar, maybe you have to be the one to do the vital signs before your blood pressure medication. I typically always do the blood pressure myself before I give a blood pressure med, just to make sure that it's correct. There's so many things that you have to factor in. Of course, when you have complete patients, meaning your patients can't turn themselves, you have to reposition them. They are incontinent, so you have to clean up their poop and their peep. And that definitely sets you back. But you have to make time for that. You have to make time for that. You have to also make time for the patients who are self-care. Because you know why? Most of the time, because they're learn-oriented, they have a lot more needs. Not physical needs, but maybe mental needs. They might need you to give them some, you know, anti-anxiety medication, pain medication. There's just so many factors. So typically what I would say, you just need to be adaptable. You have to prioritize. You have to be you definitely need teamwork. Okay, so this is not just about you too. You have to realize that you have a whole entire unit. Even if you're not charge nurse, you have to realize that you're working with a bunch of other nurses. And so you need to be there for them. If someone asks you for help, it would be great if you help them out, because 9 times out of 10, if you're asking for help, you really need it too. You know, most of the time people want to just do things themselves, but you can't. You know, everyone's human. No one's perfect. This video is getting really long, but anyway, to basically sum everything up, it's a lot of, you know, getting the feel for yourself too. What works for you, you know. Look at your models, you know, look at some preceptors or look at mentors in your unit to emulate what they're doing, or maybe just pick out. What I do is I pick out what I like from different people and then try to be the best nurse that I can be. And that's all you can do, you know, and just accept the fact that you won't be able to do everything on time. You won't be able to finish everything, and that you're just imperfect, okay? Because you won't be able to do it all, and that's okay. You know, I've never met a great nurse that thought they were a great nurse, because at the end of the day, if you are a great nurse, most of the time you're walking out thinking you didn't do enough. Most of the time you walk out and you feel defeated. Most of the time you don't think that you did the best that you can do, but you actually did, okay? And that's mostly all I have to say. Probably the next video I'm going to do is like a charge nurse one right after this one, as far as filming it. I don't know about editing, but that'll be the next one. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you want more videos like this, please comment below. Let me know. And until next time, embrace, express, and enjoy yourself.